Outwired. My name is Brian Searle with Insider Perks. Super excited to be here with you for our third episode of the week, featuring the renowned, astute, wonderful gentleman, Greg Emmert from Camp Strategy and Scott Barr from Cairn Consulting. Super excited to just kind of be back with you and talking about, like, I think our plan today is a lot of AI. But I want to start and just kind of say, like, there's been a lot that has gone on with AI over the last 2.5 years, right? And we'll talk about that. But I think it's important for us to, and some people have watched the show, have been playing with AI for a year and a half. And I think it's important for us to kind of set that tone for the people who haven't been playing with it, what it is, what the possibilities are, get their imaginations going, all that kind of stuff. Before we do that, is there anything, guys, that you feel like we should start with, talk about? Like, I think we have kind of an itinerary for the show that we put out. I did ask, for those of you who are watching, I did, as I always do, ask our wonderful co-hosts here what we should focus on the show this week. And Greg was sarcastic and emailed me back and said that he wanted to do 5 minutes of intros, which we're in the middle of right now. And then we wanted to focus on bird talk for 15 minutes. And then we wanted to focus on AI and then end with bird talk. And then what was it? Dogs on camera? And then
I think
finish?
it was dogs on camera. Yeah, there might have been some dogs on camera. We definitely, most of that was a joke, except for probably the bird talk and the dogs on camera. But we also we definitely have to get back and touch on the reporting, which we never did last week. You were just talking about a minute ago. We need to give Scott and his massive data set some due this week and talk a little bit about the reporting, I think, too.
What did we miss about the reporting? Like, I know there's always reporting we can talk about, but what do you specifically mean that we missed?
Was it Scott? What was the study? You had just released one last week. Am I Swiss cheesy on this, or do I have it right?
Yeah, no, we covered it on camera. We like shared the screen.
Did we? We covered the whole thing?
Yeah, we did. Well, yeah, we covered it pretty good.
All right, disregard.
Wow, Scott. I thought I was old, but
no, not even close.
Setting the bar
I got
even higher for us.
Extremely high. Yeah.
But yeah, thoughts, anything that's come. I know we said, like, I don't want to do the come across your desk because we actually have perhaps a plan today, so I don't want to get it too distracted. But anything quick that you guys want to talk about that you feel is important for the industry, or anything that's going on?
Not me.
For me, I think the only thing I'd like to mention, and it would be a huge conversation if we got into it, but I think it's something for everybody to keep an eye on, and that is the impact of the Doge on our public lands and our national parks.
Okay.
I think at some point that, we'll see how a lot of this shakes out, but I have thoughts on how it could impact things, but it's something that I think everybody should keep a very close eye on right now.
Yeah, I for sure agree. Like, obviously, that you're right. That is a very long discussion, but it's definitely something we need to pay attention to from a traveler perspective, behavior perspective, cleanliness of national parks perspective, staffing perspective, like all the things that the federal government kind of controls and safeguards and keeps track of. And yeah, like we should probably, let's table that. Maybe we can have a discussion on that briefly on maybe next week's show, just since we already have it planned.
Next week we could be light.
But let's gather. I'd love to gather some data, right? Like, I'd love to, because I think I know what's going on, right? But I think it would be interesting to use even AI to just do like a deep research onto like what actually is happening specifically with Doge in the national park system. Obviously we've seen that they're laying off some employees in the sector. I think Kurt Rapanchek posted about that from the National Parks Traveler, but I haven't had time to really look into that. It's interesting. My camera's blurry on the other side, so that's fun. But yeah, I think that's an important conversation to have. Like, I think the one thing that I want to close the circle on, because we did talk last week, we talked about, didn't we talk about how the pricing of campsites, like premium sites, isn't like going cheaper isn't always better or something. Wasn't that our contrarian talking point?
I think we started into it. Yeah.
I think the one thing that like I want to close the discussion on that about that I was thinking about is like generally speaking, inflation and the fact that the way that the printing of the dollar in Western countries, but United States, Canada, I'm sure other countries do it too, actually impacts how you price your sites and how you raise your rates and all those things. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand the necessity to raise rates at a certain level every year just to keep up to make the same amount of money that you were making before. And this just kind of like, I've been thinking about this more and more lately, but just the fact that, and I looked at the stats, they're on ChatGPT on my phone, and I can't remember. It would take me too long to look up the stats. But I think it was something like last year, the money supply in the United States, so the amount of money that exists digitally, not the actual printed money supply, increased by 4%. If you increase the money supply by 4%, then you must at least make 4% more than you did the year before to make the same amount of money you did before. Does that make sense? I'm sure you guys get that. I feel
Yep.
like there's so many people who don't get that though, because we see, and admittedly, I'm not as close to the rates game as I was perhaps when I was early in my career and we were only talking with 20 campgrounds and we could always have those regular conversations. But you always see the campground owners who are nervous to like raise their rates 1%, 2%. Do I want to charge $1 or $2 more? Well, like if you don't do that, you're making less money by default than you did last year. It was fascinating. I heard an economist say this on Tom Billio's show. He played a clip of an economist saying this, like a really well-known economist saying, basically he's coming to the realization in his head that like if they print 8 to 10% of new money or invented in the computer every year and the S&P 500 goes up by 9%, that just means the S&P 500 was solely up because of the money printing and the stock market actually didn't increase in value. And I think once people understand the game that they're playing, they'd be a whole lot more willing to raise those rates and adjust their prices and focus on that stuff. You guys agree generally, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, that anyway, just from the perspective of the guest, that I think there's an expectation that rates are just going to naturally fall out, that they're going to increase at least somewhat just to keep pace with everything else.
Well, and the flip side is you have to remember too, like the guest also doesn't understand that metric. Like many people don't understand that metric, that the printing of the money is basically a tax on you. But the guest doesn't understand either. So there's no easy solution to just say, well, okay, we found the solution. You need to raise your rates by the amount of percentage and make because the guest still isn't, like you said, they're expecting a certain rate increase, but they're not. Like if you take it back to, I think 2021 or 22, when the money supply increased by 25% in 1 year, like in theory, to make the same amount of money you did the year before, you should have been charging 25% more to just break even. And so the guest obviously isn't going to understand that. So there's no easy solution to it. But I just think people should keep that in the back of their mind when they're adjusting rates.
For sure.
That it's that plus the increase in electric, plus the increase in insurance, plus you got to make up for it all.
It's really hard to get owners to buy into that a lot of times because of the price sensitivity that they hear from their guests. And it's a really difficult conversation that we have to have with a lot of our clients. But, you see too often, especially if you're on social media and some of the forums, owners and managers forums, or just talk to campground owners, they want to know what that guy down the street is raising his rates to, or, what do other people set their rates at, or what do other people raise their rates to? Doesn't do you a bit of good. If they're really a true competitor, they're truly in your market, okay, you definitely want to make sure you don't price yourself out of the market. But if everybody in your market is irresponsibly keeping their rates too low and not covering their own expenses, you may have to be the trendsetter, the trailblazer, whatever. You might have to be the one who puts the cap on and steps outside that, because you're just limiting your own revenue, your own earning potential, as you pointed out. You need to at least tie into your own expenses. So you can look at somebody else's rates if they're a true competitor as a benchmark maybe, but then you have to look at what do you offer compared to them? Where are you fitting in that market as opposed to where they fit in the market? Do you offer a completely different experience? And even then, that's still just a picture. If you don't take your expenses and then things like consumer price index and inflation into that equation, you're consistently going to be working as hard as you are today for less and less money, and nobody wants to be in that position. It is
Right.
tough to do. I had a really hard time with it when I was an owner operator. My dad was obviously a primary shareholder, and so we all had votes. And let me tell you, even when you have, even if you can outvote your dad, you can't outvote your dad. Like, he just does what he wants. At least mine did. And I would have the toughest time trying to even eke out a $1 or $2 per night raise, even if we saw our electric bill go up and the water bill go up, and hard costs, not things that you can pass on. Like, the cost of soda went up. Okay, well, we can raise the cost of soda 5 cents a can, whatever it is. But those hard costs go up. We're eating those if we don't pass that on properly.
Right.
And nobody wants to work harder for less. So
and that's the thing that I
tough.
think people miss, is that this is a hard cost of them printing money. This is a hard cost to you.
It doesn't
So you
change.
can
It
say,
doesn't
like,
go away.
I've raised my rates $2 or $5. I'm charging more than I did last year. You are technically, but if you're not charging the percentage that the Fed is printing money, then you're still making less money than you did last year.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
So anyway, okay. So
Absolutely.
we've already spent 11 minutes on that topic, which was over the 5-minute allotment that Greg had for our intro. So I do want to get into AI, but before we get into AI, I want to defer to Greg. We're going to do bird talk. So Greg, Lisa has a video for you.
Oh no. I can't wait to.
Breaking news. Birds are real, and some people are way too into them.
Oh, look at that guy with binoculars on, sneaking through the park at the crack of dawn. He whispers, shh, that's a warbler, I swear. But it's just a pigeon, man, nobody cares. Bird talk, squawk, squawk. Nerds invest, taking notes on a hawk. Peck, peck, flap, flap. They know every bird call, but still live with their cat. They'll chase a rare duck for 10 whole miles, through swamps, through snow. Yeah, they love that lifestyle. Arguing online about a blurry wing. Just say it's a seagull and end the thing. Bird talk, chirp. That's a tufted titmouse. Dude, don't be a twerp. Tweet, tweet, talk, talk. Welcome to Bird Talk. Brace for the squawk.
Tonight on Bird Talk, is your neighbor a birder or just unemployed?
Tweet, tweet, caw, caw. Welcome to Bird Talk. Brace.
I am speechless.
It's your segment intro, man.
I have to say I am completely speechless. Completely speechless after that. Now I have nothing to say. I didn't see that coming. Not at all. That was very well done.
I told you I did a segment intro for you, man. Entirely generated with AI. Okay, so ChatGPT wrote the song, including the beginning and the end, where it said, like, is your neighbor, it did all that. And then I took it into Sora.com and generated the music. And then 11 Labs did the voice in the beginning and the end. And then Sora did every single clip in that sequence.
That's sick. That is absolutely
30
sick.
minutes to do it.
That's 30 minutes. Okay, so there's what somebody who's operating at genius level AI operator can do. And this is, I think, perfect segue to dive into what you wanted to cover on today's show, and start out folks that are not into it with the kindergarten level stuff, because look at what you can do. Look at what Brian's capable of doing in 30 minutes with this.
Well, it is, but first, let's just be clear. We're still in the Bird Talk segment for a couple minutes.
Okay.
So Lisa, do you want to share, because we do have a featured bird this year, for this week, that we want to talk about. Lisa, can you share my laptop screen? You have to put it a little bit bigger, but so here we have today is the gobble flap noodle beak bird. I don't know if you've heard of this one, Greg.
No, this one's new to me.
The bird is a mistake of evolution, but somehow it thrives in its bizarre, chaotic way. It's found exclusively in places where no one is looking. The gobbleflap noodlebeak is known for its unnecessary features and questionable survival tactics. Some of its physical traits, just for the people on podcasts who are listening, its size, somewhere between a pigeon and a medium-sized dog, but it changes depending on how much attention you give it. Interesting. The beak is long and flexible and floppy like a cooked spaghetti noodle. It wobbles wildly when the bird is excited, which is always. The wings are oversized and absolutely useless for flight, but I love this. It can only hover in place for 2 seconds before crashing into the nearest object. The legs, one is significantly longer than the other, making it walk in circles unless it concentrates really hard. The eyes are gigantic, googly, and independently mobile. One eye is usually looking for food while the other is staring off into the void. The abilities of the bird are scream-fueled flight. This is fun. It can't fly normally, but if startled, it lets out a scream that propels it 10 straight feet into the air before it plummets back down. That'd be fun to birdwatch for, right, Greg? Like that would be.
I think so. Yeah.
Could you keep the binoculars on it for that whole time?
Without a doubt. Yeah. Very skilled in that regard.
Mimicry, but terribly. It tries to copy human speech, but always messes up. If you say hello, it might respond with potato soup. Food theft, it doesn't hunt, it just steals snacks from distracted people. Entire picnic baskets have vanished in the presence of the gobble flap. Instant camouflage, kind of. It tries to blend into its surroundings, but its idea of camouflage is just standing perfectly still while making a soft meep noise. Interesting. And then its final here, behavior and habitat. It's found mostly near fast food restaurants, public parks, and occasionally inside unsuspecting people's backpacks. It mates through an elaborate, utterly useless dance that consists of spinning rapidly while honking like a clown horn. That's perhaps. Do you do the bird mating thing? Do you like seek them out when they're mating?
That's an entire show, but no, I don't bait and I don't use calls to attract. That's a different show.
No, not you. Like I'm saying, do you seek out the birds when they're in their mating season?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because their behavior is different, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, so known to become irrationally attached to random objects such as flip-flops, bananas, or car keys, and feared by local pigeons for its erratic movements and aggressive snack hoarding tactics. Would you like to see a picture of the gobblebeak noodleback? Gobbleflap
I will, but
noodlebeak.
can I make a prediction first?
Sure.
I think it's going to look like half the campers that I used to have when I owned my park. I'm reading this, and I know there are owners out there right now, and they're like, this sounds like mistake of evolution, questionable survival tactics. That's like 3 people on my street, and this is very human based. I think some of this.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're going to talk about AI, but this is literally just completely made up by AI. So I just ask it for a completely absurd bird, like there's a prompt above it. All right, so are you ready for the unveil? Scott, what do you think it's going to look like? I know you're not a bird expert like Greg, so just try your best.
It would take too long for me to.
All right, here is, we're just going to switch tabs here. The goggle flap noodle beak bird. It's quite attractive, I think. It's larger than I think it was described in the image.
Yeah, that's quite frightening at that size. I think it poses real
for
danger.
Perspective, looking at the picnic bench behind there. And what is the little eyeball sitting there with is that a pile of like spaghetti noodles or a flat donut? Or
I think that might be a result of it, because it looks like it knocked off a pigeon over there too. So I think this thing might be predatory.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I think it's bird debris.
Yeah, that might be everything that it's vanquished down there.
And I just need to point out, to be clear to all of our viewers watching, that this is AI generated. In real life, they have 3 toes. Not 4. So I want to make sure that our audience understands that we do know this is factually incorrect.
Yes.
So, all right. Are we done with bird talk now?
Absolutely. Yeah. Probably too much time on it, but I appreciate that. Intro is spectacular. I am flattered.
You're welcome. All right. So I think, and I want to involve you guys as we can. I think before I talk about some of the things that ChatGPT can do, I want to just go over the interface real quick for beginner stuff, right? And we're going to quickly progress through this. And so I encourage you to, well, obviously this is recorded, go back and record it. You can watch it, all those kinds of things, but learn it by yourself. Play around with it. The key is to put your hands on it, understand what it can do from that perspective. But I want to back up and talk about, before I talk about ChatGPT, I want to talk about artificial intelligence, generally speaking, from a high level, right? AI is not new. It's been, I think AI was first mentioned in, I think the 60s was the first time. And so this is not new. What's new is the fact that AI is generative. It can create things. Previously, AI was used in machine learning mostly to analyze things that already existed. And what changed and it was somewhat in existence before then, but what changed in the mindset of the consumer when ChatGPT came out in November 30th of 2022 was that this was generative AI. It could create text, it could create words, it could create writing, and then later on it could create images and videos and all the things that we're talking about now, reports and presentations and all the stuff that we'll get into here. But like AI is way more than just ChatGPT. For many of you who just watch AI on the news, you hear about the ChatGPT launch. Maybe there's a gap. You hear people talking about it. I use it for this. I use it for that. The DeepSeek thing was recent, where it came back to the forefront. But AI is so much more than just generative. And so I just think there's a need for us to understand that, even though we're not going to get into some of that stuff during this show. But ChatGPT has become synonymous with it, just like Google has been synonymous with search. So I'm curious, gentlemen, while I pour myself, Booker is the whiskey of choice here today. While I pour myself a glass of whiskey, I would love for you guys to just tell me, what was your first experience with ChatGPT? Because for all I'm into AI, I was 6 days late to the party. I was on a train in Europe. We were visiting Christmas markets on December, I think 4th, 5th, something like that. It had come out like 6 days earlier. And I had somebody send it to me like in the middle of like going to Christmas markets and traveling across Germany. And I was like, oh shit, this is pretty cool. And I didn't know what to do with it at the time, right? I was just asking silly questions, but that was my first experience with it. Do you guys remember what yours was?
I think mine was, Brian, it was actually with you at the glamping show a year and a half ago. That was the first time we met, and we were talking about doing some different types of reporting and such. And you did a little demo on kind of what, kind of just basic things even that you could do at that time with it. So yeah, that was my intro to it, and it really kind of sparked my curiosity, and has kind of. I'm not a super high-end user of AI, but I do. For me, it has some great applications and what we're working on.
For sure, Greg.
Yeah, so I just asked ChatGPT what my very first use was, because I can't remember. I couldn't even remember.
I don't think it knows, because the memory didn't come out. Like, it depends on when you started using it, but is it right?
So it says that my first prompt request was on June 29th, 2024. And to your point, it was before that. It was about a year before that. And actually, I think you kind of started me down the path too, man. I believe it was March of 23 when you guys were at the OCOA show, the Ohio Campground Owners Association Spring Conference and Trade Show in Columbus, Ohio. And we had talked a little bit about it there, and I downloaded it and started playing, and the rest is history. I use it every day. I've got 2 and 3 windows open with it, plus the app going on my phone, plus my tablet sometimes, so I can run and not have to keep different tabs open, so I can look at different screens and work off of it. And it's useful in so many different ways. To the point now that when I hear somebody tell me, "Oh, I don't use it at all. I don't know anything about it," I almost can't even process it, because it's just so helpful. It makes me so much more efficient. It can certainly turn into a rabbit hole too. I mean, there's no doubt. You can go down it like anything.
Like anything can. You have too many cookies.
Yeah, but once I started to realize how to address it, you're not Google searching something. You're literally having a conversation. You just treat it like it's a person and just have a conversation. Ask it anything that you want to know, and then continue the conversation and refine it and go down another path. And it's yeah. So that was first time, I think, probably 2 years ago in March.
I mean, I think the key thing for me to understand is why before we get into this, like why I want to focus on this, why we want to focus on this. And these are my words. I'm not saying that you guys agree with all of this, but I'm obsessed with this for reasons that I see economic opportunity. I see potential for the world to be a better place. I see all the things that it can do that are good, that are helpful, that are transformative for business owners, for consumers, for all that kind of stuff. But because of that, it arguably, like, you could label me as for sure a rabbit hole. Like, I've gone down it and I continue to go down it, right? But as a consequence, I'm in it all day at work. I'm building things with it for products and services. But I'm also then, going downstairs when my workday is over for 16 hours. And then when my girlfriend's not home or she lets me have my little 30 minutes or hour of whatever of playtime, I will watch like endless YouTube videos about new software and new technologies. And like the amount of videos that you can find on YouTube, Matt Wolf is one of the guys. I think Matt Brenner is another. There's so many of them that do like Matt Wolf, particularly from the beginning, has been doing like a weekly wrap up of this stuff. And he'll have a 30-minute video where he goes through, like, this has been 2.5 years on, where he goes through like 20 new tools that were released in the last 7 days for AI. And they're different every week, 20 new tools. And so I think the important thing that I want to drive home for people is like, this is not the invention of the personal computer where you had, in the 90s, it started becoming, it was released in the 80s, right? But in the 90s where it became popular, and then you're like, well, maybe I can take a minute to think about this. And some people got it at work and some people didn't. Some people had it at home and some didn't. And it took years and years and years and years and years before it was a commodity. The same thing with the cell phone, with the iPhone. Like the iPhone was shiny and lots of, millions of people bought it in the first year or two. But at the same time, it still really took like 3, 4, 5 years before the last death bells of the BlackBerry and everybody had smartphones, right? And it had to be copied. It had to be, and this is just so radically different. And I understand that many people watching this will be like, no, it's not. Technology is never different. People are never going to change. They're never going to adopt their ways. I'm telling you that this is going to be forced on you, and it already has been. Like, this is going to be forced on you by Google. It's being forced on you by Apple. It's on your phone. It's in your search. It's being forced on you by, ChatGPT and Claude and all the companies, right? Alexa is going to add AI to their smart home assistant. They've got a release coming up here, I think, in a week or two, where they're going to announce that. Like, you're going to have it. It's going to be everywhere. And it's not. And so as a consequence of that, as a consequence of it being shoved in front of people's faces on Google, that's what's going to cause the mass adoption quicker, because Google is going to make people use it, because it is in Google's interest to, just like Google is synonymous with search, Google does not want ChatGPT to be synonymous with AI, even though it already is. So the only way and Google CEO has come out and said this, the only way that this happens is for Google to leverage its 500 million or whatever daily users that use Google and shove it in front of their face. So you're going to see the blue links go away. You're going to see Gemini be conversational, much more than just AI overviews in search. Every page is going to be generated for you as a person, on and on and on and on. But the point is that is going to very quickly impact consumer behavior, how they discover your campground, how they figure out where to stay, what questions they ask AI, and what questions they still need to go to your website for, how often they go to your website, all the things down chain. And if you are not prepared for those as an owner, let alone what we're talking about and we'll go into about using it, if you're not prepared for those as an owner, then you're in trouble. Because, like, we'll take this use case. Lisa, share this screen. And I'm ready for the dog scenario, by the way, Greg. Like, my dog her head is on my foot down there. So
ratings will go through the roof if we bring the dogs on the camera. That's true. That's what I know.
That's very true. But we'll save it till the end, right? So we'll make them watch until the end. Like we'll say, like, there could be a segment sometime with the dogs. You just got to hang on and listen to us. So, like, if you look at this, again, we'll do like we do every week. Scott, pick a city and state that's not Michigan, because we picked that already.
Oh my goodness. How about Gila Bend, Arizona?
Nice.
What? You got to give me something I can spell. Gila Bend or Gila Bend?
Yes.
Okay, so it is pronounced that way. Like, I've always been saying it wrong.
Yeah, it's Gila.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, what is the best RV resort in Gila Bend, Arizona? And it's going to give you an answer. You can see it can search the web there. And it's going to say, based on recent reviews and ratings, the Sonoran Desert RV Park stands out as the premier RV resort. Now, I don't know is it Gila Bend? Is that what you just said?
Mhm.
I'm going to butcher that the whole show. It's going to be in my head now. It's going to ruin my concentration, and everything will be worse because of it. So thank you, Scott.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
but I have no idea if there are more RV parks here than the one. But this is the point that there are hundreds of millions of people who are using ChatGPT every single day to travel, to research, to plan, to write funny songs, to make stories for their kids, to work, to whatever. And these people are changing their behavior at such a rapid pace that this is going to start to be quickly, is now, and is going to continue to be a way that people discover how to go camping, where to go camping. If you are not Sonoran Desert RV Park and you are in, I'm calling it Gila Bend. I don't care.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't cave,
I
man.
can't. All right.
You're better than
Gila,
that.
Gila Bend. Why doesn't it start with a J? Shouldn't it start with a J? Like if it's Gila Bend, like Juarez, like I don't know. All right. Anyway, so but if you're not Sonoran Desert RV Park and you're in Gila Bend, like you literally don't exist. There's no like, there's no consumer who's gonna, maybe one, me. There's no consumer who's gonna come in here and say, "Are you sure that that's the only one in Gila Bend? Are you positive?" They're gonna look at that and say, "That's my choice. That's my answer." And so this all ties back to consumer discovery, but to your primarily your website and what your brand presence is on the internet. And so this has been something as a marketing company, I've been preaching for 15 years that for one reason or another, people haven't listened to. And that's your website matters much more than how pretty it is. It matters much more than how cheap you can get it by spending $5 on Wix and doing it yourself. This is now about SEO and branding. You know, Google has always been that way. It's impacted your rankings and how you show up. It's been, I think, arguably easier for campgrounds to rank because, generally speaking, as a stereotypical industry statement, most campgrounds still don't do this, but even more back then. And so it's kind of easier for Google to just let you rank, right? But this is different. Like these AIs are crawling your websites from Facebook, well, it's Meta, right? Facebook, Instagram, but Meta. Google's AIs are calling your website. ChatGPT's AIs, Microsoft AIs, Alexa's AIs are going to be crawling. Everybody's eating your data up as fast as it possibly can. And if it can't read your data or understand your data, then it can't put you in one of these searches. And to be clear, like we understand as an agency a lot of what goes into this, but we don't understand all of it. Neither does Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. You put a gun to Sam Altman's head and say, how did it come up with that answer? Assuming there's more than one RV park in Gila Bend, right?
There are a couple more.
He doesn't know. He can't tell you. The people who created these models have no idea why it chooses to give the answers that it does specifically, right? Like obviously there's a generalized purpose behind it all. And so like you need to understand that this is dramatically, like we're headed into what may or may not be a down economy. We've touched on that before. We're not going to touch on the economy again, but this is combined with a radical shift in consumer discovery where people are going to start discovering your places, not just on Google and social media, which they've been doing for 24 years, but they're going to start discovering you in 54 different places. And if you think SEO was hard on your website when you had to deal with one place, welcome to now. It's no longer a situation where you can hire the kid down the street and cross your fingers and hope they can build you a pretty website. You got to really buckle down and learn this stuff. And I'm not saying you have to hire me. I'm saying you have to go out and actually understand what is impacting this stuff. And if you can't devote the time to do it, you might get lucky. Maybe you could be Sonoran Desert RV Park. But chances are good that that's not going to be you as number one, or the answer is going to be different on every single person's screen. There's going to be an order of that stuff, right? Because you can turn on search here at the bottom and you can say, search the internet and tell me again. And eventually all this will be easier, but it's going to actually search the internet now. Well, maybe it didn't do it. Anyway, we'll refresh and look at ChatGPT search later. Gila, you're putting it in the chat for me, Scott?
Yeah.
Let me go back and I want to open up a new window and see
You
if we
can
can do it.
You can ask ChatGPT how you pronounce that word.
That's what you did, or that's what I should do? I believe you. Like, I have no reason to doubt you. So it's still going to do that. Like, we'll mess with that later. But it will actually search and return map results sometimes. There you go. So it does that, right? You turn on search. So now we've got a couple other options here. It just took longer. So search this is Google. Like, this is only a better version of Google because it actually answers your query instead of making you click through. And so you can slide through these and you can see the two options here. I find it fascinating that Sonoran Desert RV Park is the answer up at the top, but on the map, even though it's listed, Sonoran Desert is not one of the choices on the map. So these are the types of things that we're still figuring out as agencies, right? Why is Sonoran the answer, but why is Sonoran not on the map? We don't know yet. We A/B test, we problem solve, we figure out why it's showing up. You know, how much does Bing Places influence this? Because Microsoft uses ChatGPT, they have a good relationship back and forth. All those kinds of things we're still learning and figuring out, but we're 2.5 years into this, right? And so again, if you're not Sonoran Desert RV Park or one of these, like, you're really, really, really in trouble. And you're going to start to see this overtaking Google search results. You're going to start to see it, more people adopting ChatGPT, and it's going to go down a curve of where, like, you've got to be thinking about this. You've got to be thinking about your brand and your conversations. Like, we know from our data what impacts this stuff at a high level is backlinks, like presence online, quality backlinks, and conversation around your brand are the two things that we have proof are at least somewhat impacting the search results of AI. And obviously the content of your website, right? But the two things external to that. And that conversation means, like, conversations on social media, conversations about your brand when you send out press releases, all the things that involve a back and forth conversation or mention of your brand are impacting the perception of AI. Like, you're basically talking about a super smart human who's trying to decide what it recommends and how to give the best answer and what the best output is. So what do you guys think about this as you look at even how people find consulting companies, right? But when you're talking to your clients and thinking through some of this stuff, like, and even as users, what is the thought process that goes through your guys' head? Because I'm obviously way out here, right?
Have at it, Scott. I'll let you take that one first.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome, both of you. I needed to take a drink.
To me, it's like it just kind of demonstrates how, with a simple question, the question needs to become a conversation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
Is that, if you engage in a conversation, you're going to learn a lot more than just a simple. And it's kind of like it's almost like removing yourself from the Google search mentality, and understanding. It's like you said this earlier, Greg. It's like I talk to it like it's a person, and I think that has to be the approach, because that's what it demonstrates to me, fairly clearly. It's like, okay, we need to go a little bit further here. If we do just a basic search, and if we treat AI like a Google search, we may not get the results that are useful for us.
Yep.
So, I guess that's kind of one of my big takeaways from.
Well, you're right, and that's and I want you to touch on it briefly, please, if you have something to add in a second, Greg. But that's briefly, like, that's what the problem is for 24, 25 years since the advent of the internet, we've been used to looking at technology as like, I have to adapt to technology. Human beings speak in complete sentences. Google's stupid when it comes to complete sentences. And so what we've learned how to do is say RV Park Phoenix. What? That's not how human beings talk. But for 24 years, we've been taught that that's the only way I'm going to get a result that I want of a list of things that I can begin to spend hours browsing through to finally find my answer to my query. And that's a terrible user experience. But because Google was never threatened, they just sat on their hands and nothing changed for 24 years. And now it is. And what it's going to end up as a result in is not chat, right? Because that's not even the best user experience. The best experience is right here. Voice is me saying, I want to go take my kids on vacation. I want to go stay somewhere near Gila Bend. Can you tell me what the best RV park in the area is? And it will talk to you and it will be interrupted and it will have a conversation with you just like a person. And if you ask it for photos, it will send photos to your device or to your TV or to your refrigerator. That's where we're very quickly, very like next year quickly going. And it's already there, right? For voice and stuff like that. But so, yeah, I think it's going to require that reframing of, and it's going to, and the problem is it's going to come so quick because if you look at the businesses who are deploying this at scale and who have been working on this for 2.5 years, it's the Deltas, it's the Marriotts, the hotels, the airlines, the banks, the cable companies. Every single large corporation out here looks at this at a minimum as a math problem because it's a labor savings tool. And if it's a labor savings tool and you're a public company or you have investors and you need to cut costs, done quickly. And the more that people start chatting with these bots on all the places that they already go for flights and hotels and banks and cables, the more that they're going to quickly understand that this is how I should interact with this technology. They're going to know the good versus the bad. And they're going to quickly have this expectation of you. Like, and I say quickly, I mean like months. So Greg, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, you guys have nailed and explained it all really well. It really does take a complete reframing of how you interact with the world, not just the internet, but like with the world. You know, to the prompt that you typed in for Gila Bend, right? I see that comes up and I look at it and I go, all right, that sounds, well, you know, now that I look at it, I don't like really a developed campground experience. I like something that's maybe a little more rustic or out of town. So I wouldn't then try to re-engineer the prompt or ask it for a different campground. I would just tell it all of that. You know what? I don't really like camping at parks like this, Sonoran Desert Place. Can you recommend something else? Because I've got 2 dogs and it's got to be pet friendly and we're car camping. So I'm going to have, you know, my Subaru and a tent. And so I need kind of a spacious tent site, but I want some shade. You tell it all of that and it's going to return usable information to you. This is not, to Brian's point, it's not, you know, best RV park in Gila Bend and then searching through results and trying to find all that. It's going to find it for you. It's very much like the I love the Matrix movies, and the GPT always makes me think that it's the Oracle. This is the Oracle. This is the all-knowing, just talk to it. Ask it anything. Ask it anything, and it's likely got a really accurate answer. It still gets things wrong. It still hallucinates from time to time, but just ask the questions, be thorough, have a conversation like you would with any person that was an expert in the field that you're looking at, and it's going to talk back to you. It really is the user experience that was a really good way to frame it, Brian. This is that 24 years in the making as Google sat on their hands. This is probably what they should have been working out in the first place, because this is a much better experience.
They basically invented this technology in 2016 and then sat on it, didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Everything that OpenAI is built on, they released a paper in 2016 called GPT Transformers, and then just sat on it, didn't do anything with it, because they had no reason to invent.
Everybody was going to Google.
Let's go back to my screen. I want to walk these guys through. Well, not YouTube. You already know a little bit, but I want to walk through a couple. Like, where do I start, right? Because that's the foundation that we want to kind of set here. Is when you're looking at a box like this, if you're not used to looking at a box like this, just, you know, or you're trained in the mindset of Google, right? What do I say? What do I do? Where do I start? How do I use this? What the fuck is it, right? And the answer is just whatever's in your head that's popping into your head to say, like, I'm unsure, put it in the box. So if you come here and you're like, I don't know what to type, I don't know what to type. And it will answer you. And I'll make it a little bit bigger here. So we'll say, like, no worries, what's on your mind? We can chat, brainstorm ideas, or I can help with something specific. You need inspiration for a project, help with a problem, or just want to talk about something interesting. Okay, now I'm off and running to the races now, right? Now I have at least a starting point. It's asked me a question back. I know where to go from here. But even further to that, if I'm a campground owner and I'm have a busy schedule and I want to just, I know I like, for whatever reason, I've listened to this podcast. I say for whatever reason, right? Because I don't know why you're really listening to this podcast. It's just really me ranting and then Scott and Greg listening and maybe some birds here and there. But so I've listened to this podcast or I've heard from a friend or my teenage son or daughter is using this to cheat in college or whatever, right? I know I need to learn this. Where do I start? The answer is you come here and you say, I literally, the input, and this is the key thing too. I don't want to skip over this. The input is equal to the response you will get from the output. So if you think of a human being and you, like an employee at your campground, right? If you go to them and you say, I want you to go clean my campground, they will do that probably, assuming you have a half decent employee. But they could go anywhere from there. They could go clean the store. They could go clean the bathroom. They could go vacuum the sites. They could go leaf blow. They could go all kinds of different things. And that may not be the exact thing that you wanted them to do. But if instead you say to that employee, I want you to go clean the bathrooms, you're going to get the result that you want because you gave the employee a better input and thus you get a better output. And so the same thing applies here. If you say, I want to begin, assuming you can spell, begin learning AI like ChatGPT, and I have no idea where to start. I am a busy campground owner with only, let's say, 15 minutes a day. Can we agree that every campground owner can find at least 15 minutes a day? Is that fair? Greg and
Sure.
Scott? Okay.
Sure.
With only 15 minutes a day, give me a path to actually understand ChatGPT specifically and what I can do with it in the next 4 weeks. Easy stuff. I am skeptical of AI. Maybe it's not even good. And then it will be conversational with you. So that's a great approach for the people listening on the podcast. Since you're busy and skeptical, let's make this super practical. You'll spend 15 minutes a day for the next 4 weeks learning about AI, specifically ChatGPT, and testing what it can actually do for you. Week 1 is understanding what ChatGPT is and how it works. And then it breaks it down into day 1. What is ChatGPT? Read a short intro. Try asking it simple questions. How does ChatGPT generate responses? What are your limitations? Day 2 is tested on different topics. Ask ChatGPT about your business, giving marketing ideas from my campground. How can AI help my business? Day 3, learn about AI hallucinations or mistakes. Ask it for a fact you already know and check if it's correct. 4 is play with creative uses. Ask it to write a short campground ad or summarize a long article. Day 5 is to understand how it learns. ChatGPT learns from text data and predicts words in a sequence. Watch a 5-minute video on its basics. Day 6 to 7, test automation ideas. And then on and on. Week 2 is hands-on using ChatGPT for productivity, summarize long information. Use it for brainstorming. Week 3, getting smarter, limitations and ethics. Recognizing bias in AI, where AI goes wrong. Privacy concerns. Week 4, making a decision, is AI worth it? Day 21, list the best and worst things about ChatGPT. 22, look at AI-powered tools like chatbots for customer service. 23, ask ChatGPT what AI tools exist for campground owners. And then on and on until day 28, final verdict, does AI help you or is it just hype? And outcome, by the end of 4 weeks, you'll know how ChatGPT works, how to use it for simple tasks, where it helps and where it doesn't, and whether AI is actually useful for you. 4-week plan, 15 minutes a day. There you go. And you will be ahead of 90% of the people on the entire planet Earth still 2.5 years in by taking that course. And it's free. And you have to spend 15 minutes a day. If you can't commit 15 minutes a day to this, then there's some other bottleneck somewhere, right? Or you don't want to, which is fine. It's fine. Like I don't really think it's fine, but it's fine for you, right? But this is world-changing stuff, right? From campground discovery to all the things. Like, I think it's just the best analogy I ever heard, I think, was, if you turned on the news tomorrow, Greg, and you had a news bulletin, let's say it was on, I don't know, CNN, Fox News, whatever else, right? All over the news networks. And the headline was like, NASA confirms that an alien race has contacted us, or it's shown up on our scanners or whatever else, right? Our Hubble Space Telescopes. We've seen the ship. It's coming. It's going to be here in 3 years. We know it's coming. We know they're headed here. We know aliens are real. It's coming. Every single person on this planet would adjust their behavior instantly. Are they going to attack? What are they going to do? Oh my God, we only have 3 years. Let's panic. Let's not panic. Let's prepare. Let's start a cult. Let's worship them. Let's not worship. Every single person would change their behavior. But when you have a system that is really alien, that is going to change every single product and service on this planet in the next 2 to 3 years, that quickly, nobody pays attention. And it doesn't make any sense because it is that profound and that powerful. It is going to be everywhere. All the companies will use it. And if you don't use it, you are going to fundamentally, not only for campground owners, run into a discoverability issue where you potentially can't be found. And that's a terrible thing anytime, let alone in a down economy when less people are still camping, as we talked about last week. But not only that, you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage. And you can take any career and drop that in there. From consulting to like a lawyer, take a lawyer, for example. If you're looking for a lawyer to do your legal work, and let's say you're in San Antonio, and you call up one lawyer, and you're like, I just need, a legal contract done for employment. I need to hire a couple employees. I need an employment contract written. And that guy says, all right, I can get that done for you for $7,000. Give me about 6 weeks. We'll go back and forth on email a few times. It might cost you $185 every time you talk to me. But by the end of that, you'll have your employment contract. And you're like, all right, that's a pretty good deal. Like, that's kind of what I expect from a lawyer for throughout history. And then you're like, well, I just want to go rate shop. So I call somebody else in the same San Antonio area, and I ask the same question. And they say, well, you know what? We can get that done for you in about 17 minutes. And it will cost you $300. Who the fuck are you going to choose? Like, let's be candid and honest. And so what you're dealing with is a situation where AI is not going to replace humans yet. And when I say yet, I mean less than 10 years for robots, and probably less than 5 it actually will. For a lot of things, not everything. But you're talking about a situation where I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Like, I'm really good with normally in my train of thought. But I was talking about so many different things. What was I talking about? I was talking about AI replacing jobs. The lawyer and the adoption curve and all that kind of stuff. You're talking about a competitive advantage like that where it's going to hit every product and service on the planet. And then what do you do? So AI is going to take the human beings using AI is where the threat is right now to you and your campground and your job and your friend's job and your spouse's job and what your kids are going to college for, which is almost completely useless to go to, like, unless you're going to be a hands-on doctor or like a few other professions, right? The world is going to change that fast. And I am of the belief that there are, and I went through this exercise a few months ago. I don't know if I told you about this, Greg. I was sitting in my basement one time and something sparked my idea, and I went through this. It was layoffs or something like that. And I went through this exercise with ChatGPT, and it wasn't the thinking models yet, but I went through this exercise and I said, if marketing companies are adopting AI and they do so at a 5 or 5% rate or whatever, something like that. I can't remember what I did. Where's the period in time where like most other marketers are out of jobs or it becomes to impact like mass layoffs and stuff like that? And I think it was like late 2024, something like that. And it said like, well, in that regard, like it may take, I don't know, a year to 2 years before we start to see mass layoffs. And this is in like September of 2024. This is what AI said, unprompted by me, like other than the question of that. And I said, well, what if 5% of marketers go all in onto AI and really adopt it? And I was specifically narrowly talking about the marketing profession at this time because that's what I'm involved in. And it said, well, if 5% of marketers adopt AI and really use it for all their operations and processes, which it's a very low number, I guarantee you 5% of them are. It said 6 months to a year is how long until we start to see like most marketers who don't adopt it go out of business. And then I said, well, what if it's 10%? And it said, well, 3 to 9 months. And then it said, like, you can expect to start to see mass layoffs by the end of 2025. And I said, this is ChatGPT, right? So it's not trained on the search. I said, you do understand it's already October of 2024. Oh, well, in that case, like early to mid 2025. Like this is happening right now. I posted on LinkedIn. Salesforce is doing it. Electronic Arts is doing it. Southwest is doing it. Meta is doing it. Most of these companies are not attributing it to AI, but it's right in front of you. The Salesforce CEO has come out and said, we're not hiring any more mid-level software engineers, period, full stop. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the same thing on Joe Rogan's podcast. We're done hiring software engineers, period, full stop, because the AI is good enough to code our software for us. Now, if the AI in the minds of Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, who's a billionaire, and Mark Benioff, Salesforce, also probably a billionaire, if those two companies believe that AI is good enough to code all of their platforms, what makes you think your desk job is safe? Like, let's just be frank here. It's not at all. And so all these layoffs that you see are happening. Southwest Airlines did a restructuring, and their thing is, we want to get back to our entrepreneurial roots to be efficient and do faster decision making. That's just code for getting rid of the people that are slowing us down. And I'm not saying I love this world. I'm telling you exactly what it is. And you can turn me off and you can say that that's not happening and you can close your eyes and stick your head in the sand, but it is happening faster than you can ever possibly believe. And as a campground owner, this is going to impact you because we're standing on an edge, on a cliff of where all these people are already getting laid off by the thousands and tens of thousands. But when it starts to the hundreds of thousands, and look at all the people that are being let go from government. Those aren't all AI, but I rest assured, we're going to talk about Doge next week, right? But rest assured, Elon is going to put some AI or push for AI to be efficiently used in government processes to replace those workers. There's a plan for all that. I'm not saying it's a good plan, but there's a plan, right? All this is going to be impacted. And like, I beg you guys to pay attention to this. We'll talk about some more advanced cases in a second. I want to dive into data with you, Scott. But can I just shut up for a second and ask you guys your thoughts on all that madness that just came out of my mouth?
So
you go first this time, Greg.
I will gladly. Yeah, so I agree with you. Like, you can see the layoffs, and you're right. I don't think there's any reason to believe that it's for any other reason. And maybe you said this, didn't a couple of the big hotel chains do the same thing? Marriott, did you say that?
Yeah.
Did you mention Marriott? And somebody else threw in another 10 or 20,000, and
Royal Caribbean was one of them.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like you said, if you sit at a desk, especially if you've got a repetitive task, even if it requires reasoning, it doesn't really matter. This thing can out-reason most people, and it never gets sick, and it never needs a day off, and it can do the work of maybe 100 people. Why am I going to continue to employ those people? So as a small business owner, it's a little bit different, right? I can't replace the guy that has to turn over my campsites. I can't replace the person who goes and cleans the toilets. Maybe in 10 years, the autonomous robots are down to where, they're only $100,000, and
It'll be 3 to 5 years, Greg. You wait.
okay. So when the autonomous
It'll be
robot
20,000.
gets to $100,000 even, and that sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about what you pay somebody, a part-time employee might be, I don't know, $15,000 or $20,000 a year. That's a 5-year ROI, and that thing never needs.
It's not even that. Like they'll be down to 20,000.
Yeah,
they're
and
already selling them.
if
They're
that happens,
already
then
selling them in China for $15,000. You can
different.
order one right now.
Yeah, if that happens, it's completely different. But even at $100,000, a lot of small businesses will do it because that's worth. Even if you got to take out a loan to get that, that's worth every penny of it because it works forever and it does the task without fail. But that's, it's down the road, so that stuff's hard for people to grasp.
Yeah.
But the mid-level jobs, like you said, any kind of job that just, if it's repetitive tasks, reasoning, legal, accounting, even engineering is probably, if you're an engineer somewhere, you probably ought to be a little nervous about this, or at least looking into how you can learn and master AI going forward, because you're going to be a lot more valuable if you can. Otherwise, anything that you can teach a human to reason out or calculate, you can teach this thing to do it too. So it is just a matter of time.
It already knows.
It's really short, right? It already knows, right? You might have to refine certain critical thinking portions to a certain job, but yeah, it's here. So it's definitely a good idea to at least get acquainted with it. If not, start maximizing the use for your campground. Let it make you that much more efficient and smart and powerful. That's it. That's my rant. There it is, Scott. I throw to you.
No, I think it's obviously a necessary part of the conversation. And when you consider the challenges for a lot of campground owners right now, which is staffing, it's like, and it isn't just campgrounds, it's everywhere you go. In the area I live in, restaurants and other businesses, especially this time of year, they don't open very often, sometimes just because they don't have staff. If one person is sick, they have to change their hours. So you think about hospitality, and those aren't all desk jobs, obviously, but what it gets to is that if you are more efficient at what you can do, that frees up your time, and that's going to free up the opportunity for you to maybe find someone else to help out. If you can use these tools to take any of the load off of you, it's because time is precious. And as you said, Greg, especially now with the manual tasks that Brian says in a couple of years will be gone anyway, but currently we still need to do some of those. And again, having the time, and pretty much everyone I talk to, that's one of the things they talk about, is just having the time to devote to this. And again, and how that applies to staffing now. Companies are having a hard time finding people, so it's highly relevant.
I mean, I think the important thing to communicate here too is, like, this is not the robots of old, right? Like, I think as we've progressed through technology through the years, and things like phone systems and chat bots and whatever else that were pre-ChatGPT, there's been an expectation that for most part, technology makes the user experience worse. The phone tree is maybe efficient for the business owner, but bad for the consumer. The old chatbots were great for the business owner, but frustrating for the consumer. The cable box with the confusing menu that you had to reboot and couldn't figure out why it couldn't get a signal, and then had to spend 2 hours on the phone with your cable company, was perhaps more efficient because they could control it from there as a brain for the business, but bad for you. This is different. This is technology that, if deployed right, and I understand that that's a big if, but if deployed right, will make your life better, will save you money, but will also make the guest experience better, which will translate into people enjoying the outdoors faster, and will make them happier with the experience they're having at your property. Like, that's the ultimate point here, is that this is a better technology, and this is not just a chat bot. People need to here's something. Lisa, share this. We're gonna, and you guys have seen this. So this is the model that made everybody go crazy a few weeks ago. out of China, and we are on deepseek.com. So this is free to use. You sign up for an account. Please do not put anything in here that you don't want the Chinese government to see, but it's fun to play around with. So come to deepseek.com, and I think Greg went to the bathroom, Scott. Do you think he did? Like he just, oh no, he's there. Okay.
Just hiding.
If that was a bathroom break, that was super quick, man. I'm really
No,
impressed.
I didn't want the Chinese to come after my Stevie Eisman jersey, so I quick turned it off. I think I'm safe. Turn it back on. We're good.
Gotcha. Good. I'm gonna get you a Flames jersey. Happy to do that for you, man.
I'd go with an Iginla. I'd take an Iginla, but outside of that, I'm not.
When's your birthday? Just tell me your birthday so I know that.
Well, I'm not going to say that on
the Bird Talk.
Chinese are listening. I'm not going to give them my birthday. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. So like this is the model that you saw in the news a few weeks ago. Nvidia's stock market cap crashed by $600 billion overnight, largest in history. All the tech companies were down. Everybody was, AI was back on the headlines everywhere talking about this. And the reason for that is that people realized that the Chinese were not as far behind us as we thought they were. In fact, this is actually a side project of a hedge fund. They didn't even really put a lot of effort into this thing. But what this really opened people's eyes to, and you'll see this in a second, is that AI actually can have a thought process like a human being. It's not just regurgitating words and hallucinating and picking up what it was trained on. It's actually reasoning and thinking through its answers, which is why this thing is, I would have told you in December of last year, and I've been talking about this ever since ChatGPT came out with all kinds of people in the industry. I would have told you that this is going to move really fast. After I saw this and understood what it was, it's going to move. I don't know. Is it really fucking fast? I don't know what is the real, really, 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 really fast? I don't know what the adjective is that's above that, but holy shit. So if you look at this thing, DeepSeek, and we come in here and we're going to ask it a really complex question because I want to see this. So we'll try to say, I run a campground and I want to install a playground near one of my deluxe cabins. The cabin has 3 doors. Just putting something random in there, right? Cabin has 3 doors. I want the playground to fit into a space that is, what's a smallish playground dimension, Greg?
20 by 50 is small.
20 foot by 50 foot. But I need people to still be able to use all 3 doors of the cabin. Again, I'm just throwing stuff in here. You'll understand in a second, right? Also, the dog park is 200 feet away. And then I want it to have swings and a teeter-totter and be red. Now, when I hit enter here, the first thing you're going to see is the model actually not answering, but thinking to itself internally about how to answer you. And it's going to go relatively fast. And this is called reasoning. So I think this is big enough for everybody to see. So this is it thinking. So the user wants a campground, wants to install a playground near a deluxe cabin. Let me start by understanding the requirements. The space available is 20 foot by 50 foot. Cabin has 3 doors, and all of them need to remain accessible. The dog park is 200 feet away, which might be a regulation or just a preference. The playground needs to include swings and a teeter-totter, and it should be red. First, I need to visualize the layout. We're not going to read the whole thing, but the cabin with 3 doors, probably front, side, or back doors. The playground is 20 by 50 foot, which is a decent size, but not huge. Accessibility is key here. They don't want the playground blocking any of the doors, so pathways or clear access routes to each doors must be maintained. Also, proximity to the dog park, 200 feet away. That's a good distance to prevent any issues between dogs and kids, maybe even a regulation. On and on and on. Color is red. Now the layout, the cabin's doors. Let's assume the cabin is adjacent to the 20 to 50 area. The doors could be on different sides. The playground shouldn't be placed in a way that blocks any door. Maybe the playground is set back from the cabin, have clear paths. Alternatively, if the cabin is in the middle, but that's less likely. Also, considering the dog park is 200 feet away, that's a buffer distance, which is good. Materials, budget considerations the user didn't mention. Regulations, check local codes. Possible layout, place the swing set towards the end of the 20 by 50 area. lighting for evening use if the campground has evening activities, but again, not specified, planting shade trees around. In summary, the key points are, and then it gives you an answer. Now it's reasoned through all that and given you a much better answer than ChatGPT would. But the default ChatGPT. They have OpenAI has these thinking models too. And it's given you a little, not really the best visual sketch in the world, right? But, and it gives you an answer. And so what you're looking at here in this thinking process, this is called test time compute. And I don't mean to be geeky, but it's called test time compute, the amount of time that they give for the model to think in tokens before it answers. OpenAI has said this. We can play videos on this all day, where there's no limit to this. The amount of intelligence that this model can produce by thinking through complex questions could last anywhere from what you just saw, which was roughly 30 seconds, to 3 days of thinking for more complex issues like think scientific research or biology or curing cancer or whatever else. There's no upper limit to this other than the amount of compute and power that they allow this model to use when it formulates its answer. You guys know we've done research studies, market research and things with a AI model that on my side has thought for 37 minutes and produced 45-page reports that are the stuff that you would pay $10,000 to $50,000 to a consulting firm to do, or even more, right? And obviously those still need gone through. They need refined. They need fact-checked, all that kind of stuff. But it's really, really good. And so if you look at a situation where how does this stuff get smarter faster and why I changed my mind after I saw this, all they have to do is say, it's okay. You can think for longer. Here's another computer. And it gets smarter. Here's another 10 computers and it gets smarter. Literally overnight. And there's video of Sam Altman saying this. We see no roadblock at all to this thing. Like there's no stopping it other than the amount of computers that we can throw at it, which is not a huge amount that it needs. And so you're talking about by the end of 2025, this thing will be smarter than every person on the planet put together because all it needs is compute and time to think. It's already been trained. It already knows all the knowledge. You can teach it on science and math because there's a correct answer that you can feed it, whereas writing is creative, right? So it's easier for coding and math. Let me pull up this Sam Altman blog here to show you. We were trying to get to this last year or last week. I don't know why I keep saying last year. It feels like it's been that long with you guys. So 3 observations here. Did you guys read this? Did I send this to you?
I don't think so.
Okay. So he published this, I think, roughly about a week ago now. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the 3 observations he posted and said, our mission is to ensure AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. Now, there's a different definition for that, but generally speaking means smarter than the smartest human. Systems that start to point to AGI are coming into view, and so we think it's important to understand the moment that we're in. AGI is a weakly defined term, but generally speaking, we mean it to be a system that can tackle increasingly complex problems at human level in many fields. People are tool builders with an inherent drive to understand and create, which leads to the world getting better for all of us. Each new generation builds upon the discoveries of the generations before to create even more capable tools: electricity, the transistor, the computer, the internet, and soon AGI. Over time, in fits and starts, the steady march of human innovation has brought previously unimaginable levels of prosperity and improvements to almost every aspect of people's lives. In some sense, AGI is just another tool in this ever taller scaffolding of human progress we are building together. In another sense, it is the beginning of something for which it's hard not to say this time it's different. The economic growth in front of us looks astonishing, and we can now imagine a world where we cure all diseases, have much more time to enjoy with our families, and can fully realize our creative potential. In a decade, perhaps everyone on Earth will be capable of accomplishing more than the most impactful person can today. He's saying by 2035, you, Greg, you, Scott, every single person watching this show will be capable of having access to intelligence that is smarter than the most impactful person on the planet today. Every single person will have access to that. I think it'll come faster than that, to be clear. Or at least I think some people will have access to it. We continue to see rapid progress with AI development. Here are 3 observations about the economics of AI. The intelligence of an AI model roughly equals the log of the resources used to train and run it. This is what we're talking about test time compute partially. These resources are chiefly training compute, data, and inference compute. It appears that you can spend arbitrary amounts of money and get continuous and predictable gains. The scaling laws that predict this are accurate over many orders of magnitude. In other words, he's saying that AI, in separate ways, not in this article, will improve 300% every single year. Well, maybe the first 300% isn't scary, but when you've improved 300% and then 300% on top of that 300%, it's a little interesting. The cost to use a given level of AI falls about 10x every 12 months, and lower prices lead to much more use. You can see this in the token cost from GPT-4, et cetera, et cetera. The socioeconomic value of linearly increasing intelligence is super exponential in nature. A consequence of this is that we see no reason for exponentially increasing investment to stop in the near future. If these 3 observations continue to hold true, the impacts on society will be significant. We are now starting to roll out AI agents. We explored this in the first episode, right? Using a browser, of the deep research tools, things like that. If these 3 observations continue to hold true, the impacts on society will be significant. We are now starting to roll out AI agents, which will eventually feel like virtual coworkers. Let's imagine the case of a software engineering agent, which is an agent that we expect to be particularly important. We talked about Mark Benioff and Salesforce and Meta and Mark Zuckerberg. Imagine that this agent will eventually be capable of doing things most things a software engineer at a top company with a few years of experience could do, for tasks up to a couple days long. It will not have the biggest new ideas. It will require lots of human supervision and direction, and it will be great at some things, but surprisingly bad at others. Still, imagine it's a real but relatively junior virtual coworker. Now imagine 1,000 of them, or 1,000,000 of them. Now imagine such agents in every field of knowledge work. So what you're talking about here is imagine the smartest doctor on the planet creating an AI that has all the knowledge of all the medical journals and all the history and all the labs and all the biology and all the cells and all the things. Smartest AI doctor on the planet, and being able to infinitely copy him or her 2 billion times, so that every single community and every single city and every single town and every single country on Earth has access to that knowledge. You can't do that with a human being, but you can do that with an AI. With a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a marketer or a guy that sits here and does a podcast called Outwired or anything, right? It's real. In some ways, AI may turn out to be like the transistor economically, a big scientific discovery that scales well and then seeps into almost every corner of the economy. We don't think much about transistors or transistor companies, and the gains are very widely distributed. But we do expect our computers, TVs, cars, toys, and more to perform miracles. The world will not change all at once. It never does. Life will go on mostly the same in the short run, and people in 2025 will mostly spend their time in the same way they did in 2024. We will still fall in love, create families, get in fights online, hike in nature. I'm going to throw in bird watching for you, Greg.
Birdie,
Obviously.
thank you. Yeah,
I don't know how he could possibly have missed that, but
it's a $102 billion mistake, but go ahead.
Yeah. But the future will be coming at us in a way that is impossible to ignore, and the long-term changes to our society and economy will be huge. We will find new things to do, new ways to be useful to each other, new ways to compete, but they may not look very much like the jobs of today. Agency, willfulness, and determination will likely be extremely valuable. Correctly deciding what to do and figuring out how to navigate an ever-changing world will have huge value. Resilience and adaptability will be helpful skills to cultivate. AGI will be the biggest lever ever on human willfulness and enable individual people to have more impact than ever before, not less. We expect the impact of AGI to be uneven. Although some industries will change very little, scientific progress will likely be much faster than it is today. this impact of AGI may surpass everything else. The price of many goods will eventually fall dramatically. Right now, the cost of intelligence and the cost of energy constrain a lot of things. And so we know this, Greg. We've talked about this, Scott. Like the cost of almost everything that you purchase, from the campsite that you're selling to your guest, to the goods that you stock in your store, to the buns in your restaurant for hot dogs. Most of the price of that comes from two things: the intelligence required to create, manufacture, ship, whatever, drive, stock all those goods, to the energy that it costs to plug in all the machines and manufacture all the stuff. Intelligence is here. It's quickly scaling, and it's quickly going to cost that piece of it to plummet. And in a few years, and I know, Greg, you and I disagree with how quickly this is going to happen, but in a few years, when we solve nuclear fusion, with the help of artificial intelligence, energy costs are going to plummet too. And then you run into a deflationary issue, which is a whole nother conversation. But the price of many goods will eventually fall dramatically. Right now, the cost of intelligence and the cost of energy constrain a lot of things. And the price of luxury goods and a few inherently limited resources like land may rise even more dramatically. Technically speaking, the road in front of us looks fairly clear, but public policy and collective opinion on how we should integrate AGI into society matter a lot. One of our reasons for launching products early and often is to give society and the technology time to evolve. AI will seep into all areas of the economy and society. We will expect everything to be smart. Many of us expect to need to give people more control over technology than we have historically, including open sourcing more, and accept that there is a balance between safety and individual empowerment that will require trade-offs. While we never want to be reckless, and there will likely be some major decisions and limitations related to AGI safety that will be unpopular directionally as we get closer to achieving AGI, we believe that trending more towards individual empowerment is important. The other likely path we can see is that AI being used by authoritarian governments to control their population through mass surveillance and loss of autonomy. Again, we talked about paying attention to Doge, not saying Doge is doing this, but we talked about paying attention to what your government is doing, right? You need to pay attention and be aware of some of these things. Ensuring that the benefits of AGI are broadly distributed is critical. The historical impact of technological progress suggests that most of the metrics we care about, health outcomes, economic prosperity, get better on average and over the long term, but increasing equality does not seem technologically determined, and getting this right may require new ideas. And so on and on. I know I said we're not going to read the whole thing. I guess it's 2 paragraphs, so then we might as well just finish, right? In particular, it does seem like the balance of power between capital and labor could easily get messed up, and this may require early intervention, which means now. We are open to strange-sounding ideas like giving some compute budget to enable everyone on Earth to use a lot of AI, but we also see a lot of ways where we just relentlessly drive the cost of intelligence as low as possible, and it has the same desired effect. Anyone in 2035 should be able to marshal the intellectual capacity equivalent to everyone in 2025. Everyone should have access to unlimited genius to direct however they can imagine. There is a great deal of talent right now without the resources to fully express itself. And if we change that, the resulting creative output of the world will lead to tremendous benefits for us all. I mean, this is just one thing, right? Of many. But this is so quick and going to change so many things. I was watching a video about Hollywood the other day, right? All of us watch movies. Yeah? But how Hollywood's going to dramatically change. Right now, you have basically gatekeepers. Let's say you're Greg, you want to pitch the feature film Bird Talk. Because obviously, who wouldn't want that? $1 billion next Avatar movie in the making. Right? But if you want to pitch that right now, you have a gatekeeper that's a Hollywood company. Now you have maybe more choices than you did before with Netflix and Prime Video and all that stuff. But you have gatekeepers. In less than 5 years, you're going to be able to go type a prompt in or talk with your voice and say, I want to create Bird Talk. And it's going to create a 2-hour feature film for you that could debut in a theater. It'll be that good. Maybe 10 years to get to that point, right? But that quick. And I don't know how to express it better. Like maybe you gentlemen can give me some advice, because obviously I'm deep in the weeds on this and I see it all. But I don't really know how to communicate this better to people, that this is different and you do not have time to sit here and not learn it. How do I express that better, guys? Unless you disagree with me, which you can.
I'm looking at you, Scott.
The
He actually was.
I mean, I guess the way I'd look at it is that, anyone who's, and I'll speak to anyone, it doesn't matter your age, but someone my age, what we've seen in the use of technology for the kind of work I do, I'll just use my example, is that when I first started doing reports, cut and paste was literally cut and paste.
Mm-hmm.
We would cut things out. We would print them out. We'd cut them out. We'd paste them in something, and we'd make a copy of a report and deliver hard copy reports. We used to run to the airport when I lived in Phoenix because we had an extra hour to get FedEx. So we would literally take a package with a report in it to FedEx and hand it to the people from FedEx there at the end of the day. Everything we did was like that. Today, we produce just the tools that we use now are so far ahead of what we used back then, and that doesn't include AI currently. We can do a project now that used to take 2 or more months, and we can do it in 2 days. And again, that's without AI. We are so much more efficient. The cost to do the work is way down. One analyst can do the work of an entire team of analysts without AI. So now you add AI to the equation, and our efficiencies just went up by, I don't know, a scale of whatever,
Yeah.
all those things that we could do, those things that to us still seem a little tedious even. But, like, for example, we just did a study. I got 2 data files at the end of the day today, and I'll be able to produce preliminary results by tomorrow afternoon for someone. The use of AI will change that, so that person would probably already have just an overview of the results on their desk if that was integrated in there. That capability is already here. It's the way I would explain it is that anything that you do, especially on a computer, any task you do, there's a real good chance it can be automated. And if you're not doing it, and again, I use my industry as an example. If I bid on a job and I tell the person it's going to take this long and it's going to cost this much, and I'm not using AI and the person next to me is, and they're going to say, well, I can do it for a quarter of that cost and I can do it in a day. Who's going to get the job? Who's going to get the work?
Mm-hmm.
I become obsolete. I become a dinosaur. And if you don't do that, that's what you become. You lose all your advantage. You lose all your competitive advantage. The bottom line is, if you build a house, you're probably not going to be using a hand manual saw. You're going to use electric saws, right? You're going to use power saws that have a power source. You're going to use the best tools possible. And if you hire a contractor, you want them to use the best tools possible. And that's what you have to do. That's what this is. It's the best tool we have right now to do the job. And why would you use a different tool that's going to be less efficient, less effective, and is going to put you at a disadvantage?
Well, and let's talk. Greg, do you have anything to add before I say?
Oh no, that was really well stated. I mean, did you it falls in line with a story that I tell all the time. Maybe I've shared it on here about the totem carving. Did I share that with you guys? The guy
I don't
using
think
the chainsaw. So my and I actually got to go to this little Lingot village. It's on Prince of Wales Island. I got to go there with she was still my girlfriend at the time, my wife and my in-laws, and my father-in-law took me to this tiny little village where they live purely on subsistence, and it was an amazing place to visit. And when he was there previously, a few years ahead of time, he went bear hunting and salmon fishing, and he was there ahead of us. He was in the village, and he sees this guy, and he's carving into one of the totems. They have these massive totems throughout the rainforest, and they're gorgeous. He's carving one, and he's using a chainsaw. And long story short, he asks the guy, what do you think your grandfather would say if he saw you with that chainsaw? And I can't remember the exact line, but it was essentially something along the lines of, he'd probably say, I would have used it if I had it too. Yeah, he was using maybe a hatchet or a hand plane. He didn't have a chainsaw, so he didn't use one. But the tools he was using were the most technologically advanced tools of the time. We look back and we see things. I have Native American artifacts that I found in farm fields around Ohio, and you hold it in your hand and you're like, wow, this thing's 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years old. This is amazing. Well, I'm holding the iPhone of the time, right? But people don't put that together necessarily. But that's the highest end technology there was. They would have used something more had they had it. It's the same. You can apply that today to GPT or DeepSync or any AI platform that you can use to automate things to make yourself more efficient. You're just using the highest end technology you have available to you. And to Scott's point, if you're not, the person next to you or the park down the street from you, they are. But to your question, how do you get more people to buy in or listen? We need the Carl Sagan or the Neil deGrasse Tyson of AI to come out and communicate it in that way. We need that great science communicator to come out and explain it to people in the way that makes total sense. It doesn't sound scary. It sounds like something that's really fun and that they want to get into and do. That's what we need. We need that person, that man or woman, to come out and make that connection for people like Sagan did with Cosmos back in the day when he had his that first TV show was fantastic.
I mean, I will play devil's advocate here for a second and just say we have a Neil deGrasse Tyson for science, and most people don't pay attention to science.
Well, yeah, that's true. Sadly, but that's what we need for this. You need that great communicator, somebody who can lay it out in a way that makes it approachable, not scary. It makes people want to do it, want to lean into it, because we can sit here and say this all we want. Hopefully people are listening, but it needs to happen on a bigger scale. It needs to happen. It needs to come through somebody's television, unfortunately, because that's all anybody believes, right? It's got to come through their television or their smartphone, or and maybe it is us. Maybe we are that. Maybe we are they. I don't know.
Well, we are for outdoor hospitality right now. I'm not suggesting that we're equivalent to Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? But we're the people pushing the conversation because it needs to be had.
Absolutely. And Frank, let's just be honest. I'm only dropping his name. Hopefully he gets this and then he comes on the show. I think we should allow guests if NDT wants on.
If he wants on.
Yeah. I'll give up my spot. And no, I want to talk to him. Forget it. I won't do that.
Yeah.
Go back to it.
Yeah, very brilliant. But I think where I want to take this next is just to say, you guys deal with campground owners on an almost daily basis. What are some things that you've done, with spreadsheets or data analysis or day-to-day or idea things, that you feel would resonate with an owner watching this episode? Because I think that's the key is the use case, right? Like, how do I? Cool, it chats with me. Cool, I can learn it. Why? Like, we've talked about the discovery consumer aspect of it, right? But we haven't really got into the operational aspect of it.
So I've used it to build and tried to show it to clients, because very few, especially if you're a mom and pop, which is what I was. I mean, it was me and mom and dad and a staff of 10 to 15 people, depending on the season. We felt like we had to wear all the hats. We had to do all the work. It's just how you did it. You have to go at 1,000 miles an hour nonstop and continually shift gears and get all the work done. We didn't have any really well laid out or really any documented procedures, any of that. Man, you just talk your way through the job and it will spit out an SOP for you on the other end, and you can keep refining it. And you need that, because if something happened to me or mom or dad, or God forbid, two of us or all three of us, something happened to one of them, the other two of us had to go help. Everything at the park would have been total standstill, because we were the gatekeepers. We were the only ones that really knew how to do the critical stuff. Yeah, phones might get answered. They could probably register somebody, get them on site. Something happened at the wastewater plant, or there was something critical with the infrastructure in the park. Who knows what would have happened? Quite frankly, outside of a couple of people, I don't even know if anybody could have gotten the office open for the day, right? So you need those things documented, because you never know what's going to happen. Spit it in and it spits it right out. And it is a conversation. Tell it what you're trying to do. It'll refine it and walk you right out the other side. And once you do that once, now it's trained on what you're looking for. Now you get to the next SOP and it's even faster, and the next one's even faster.
Let's do this in real time. I want you to talk. Like, we're going to share my screen. Don't put me on the screen. You're going to put Greg up there, and let's build an SOP for these guys. I'm going to whatever you tell me to type. You're the consulting expert, right?
Yeah. Well, something as simple as I was going to say pool. No, not everybody has a pool. Well, how about just opening for the day? Well, how do you open your office? What do? What does that take? Where's the cache, right? I want to build an SOP around opening the office and starting the business for the day.
At a campground?
Yeah.
Okay, now, here's what I want to show people before we do that. Up here, we haven't covered this interface really, right? But up here, you have a little menu. If you're logged in, you're going to have less options. Well, you have more options if you're logged in. But if you subscribe to the $20 a month plan, you're going to have more options here than somebody who doesn't. And if you're subscribed to the $200 a month plan, like I am, then you're going to have even more options. But where we looked at DeepSeek, you're talking about this stuff, O1 and O3, this advanced reasoning stuff. So the power of some of this stuff, and GPT-4o will do it too, is I need to write the perfect prompt for this, and then put whatever you want in there. And it will think through it, and it will write a prompt that is much better. I'm creating a comprehensive standard operating procedure for opening a campground. It will be used by staff members who are responsible for unlocking, preparing, and ensuring the document should be clear and concise. Key details to include alarm codes, responsibilities for designated staff, turn on lights, HVAC, whatever else, daily administrative tasks, campground walkthrough, safety and security measures, staff coordination, guest interaction preparation, maintenance and housekeeping. Does all that sound good to you, Greg?
Yeah, it does. And then you can also use this and frame it in a way to have it ask you these things. Correct?
Yeah.
Right? So you could turn it into a tool that's going to interview you to organize the steps and build it using that same thought process that Brian just had it.
Great. I want you to interview me about my campground to learn everything you need to know to build this. Begin by asking one question. I will provide an answer. Then you ask another until I say we are good. Let's generate the SOP. And I just said it that way. Like, you could say, until you feel you have enough, but like, that was a lot of stuff in there, and I don't want to spend the entire rest of the show on this.
Yeah. Just even the first couple questions are great though, because now someone who thinks, well, geez, I don't know how to document it. So build the prompt using the AI, then turn that prompt into an interview for yourself, and just talk to it.
Scott, you're quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, you own a campground now. Could you describe the general background setting of your campground? For example, where is it located, approximately how large it is, and any standout features or natural elements like forests, lakes, mountains that make it unique?
The it's a rustic campground with about 50 sites, 15 RV sites, 10 cabins. The remainder are tents. It's a highly wooded area in the northern tier of the U.S. The features are it has 8 sites that are on the water, and it has full lake access that has good fishing and swimming, canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, and so on.
Good.
Yep.
Question 2, could you describe your typical daily business hours and the staff involved in opening each morning? For example, what time does the office open and how many people are usually scheduled for responsible for getting everything up and running? Greg, you can take this one.
Yeah, so the business hours are daily 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. The staffing levels change depending on the day of the week. Weekdays, maybe 4 to 5. Weekends, 8 to 10 people.
4 a.m. to 5
4 to
p.m.?
5. No, say 4 to 5 people on weekdays are working,
maybe.
and this is a lot for a park this small, but we're gonna go with a big staff, and maybe 8 to 10 working on the weekend, and of that, say 2 of them are responsible for getting everything up and running, 2 department heads.
Could you walk me through the very first steps those 2 department heads take when they arrive on site to open up? For instance, do they need access to any lock gates, disable alarms, check security cameras, or otherwise secure the premises before unlocking the office?
There you go. So you are up and running at this point. Like, you are on your way to exactly what you need to set up an SOP to open up.
That's all I want to provide for now. Generate me the SOP. Fill in the rest with assumptions. And there is your purpose, standard operating procedure, scope, responsibilities, access to property, disable security systems, required resources, keys, gate codes, procedure, arrival and security check,
Cash
office
drawers.
setup,
Yep.
power up electronics, check messages, cash drawer prep, reservation review, campground walkthrough, key checks, restrooms and showers, lake access and waterfront checks.
I gotta
guest
say,
service.
this is actually pretty good. Just based on assumptions, this is not bad. It's a good starting point.
Yeah, maintenance and housekeeping coordination, safety and compliance, wildlife awareness for birds. Birds should be in there.
Bears and trash pandas I see around there.
Staff coordination, daily briefing, optional if time allows before 8 a.m. Opening checklist sample. There you go. Actually I was hoping I could check that, but no. Best practices and additional notes. Environmental stewardship. Encourage guests to follow leave no trace principles. Does that mean it's woke?
No.
Okay.
No, it just means it's decent.
All right. I'm just curious. Throwing that out there. I had to have a little controversy in the show, right? Document control, revision history, recording the updates or changes to the SOP, approvals, final notes. Okay? There you go. So in the span of how many minutes did that take us? You now have your first SOP for opening your entire office and campground in the morning. And how long would that have taken somebody to put together previously, Greg? Well, you owned your park when you had to do it, right? So.
Oh, that's a few hours, right? If you're sitting down and then rethinking, oh, I forgot this step, I forgot when, because you want it to be something where it is as it's built right there. Open the door, turn on the light switch, come around the counter, turn on this computer, go through the cash drawer. You want it to be that thing that if you're not there, you're not able to be there. That person can walk in, and even if the staff who's not responsible isn't there, who's responsible isn't there, that next person down the chain can grab the book and go, well, you know what? I got it right here. I'm just going to follow the steps, and everything runs like it's supposed to. And now imagine building that and think about the resource that you have at your hands now for training. You're not trying to piecemeal things together. It's so valuable. It's just one, right? One use case. The first one that came off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just have to envision, right? So share. We'll do this again real quick, Lisa. So then you just keep this going, right?
And Jeff Kirkman has got it. We've got a comment in there that's absolutely, he's right on. Once you finish it, it could be saved as its own ChatGPT advisor, allowing staff to ask it their own questions when needed. Then your SOPs become exactly what they're supposed to be, which is a living, breathing thing. Because now your staff can go in and say, you know what, these steps kind of suck because Greg, he's relentless and I don't do things in that way. What if I want to do them like this? Maybe it makes edits with your staff in mind. Now you're building a more cohesive staff. Again, we're going down a rabbit hole on one thing, but you can see it's sort of limitless what you can do. And yeah, I agree with Greg Garwood. The Bird Talk intro was awesome. I want to know how much it takes. I want to know what it costs me to lift that. I want to use it for my own purposes.
A very serious response to Greg's deep and thought-provoking feedback. Dear Greg, I must take you a moment to truly, deeply, and sincerely acknowledge the gravity of your concerns regarding the SOP. When I first heard that you, Greg, the ultimate authority on all things campground-related, were less than thrilled with it, I nearly dropped everything. The birds stopped chirping. It added birds. The birds stopped chirping. The wind ceased blowing, and even the lake itself held its breath in anticipation of your wisdom, Greg. Your insights, undoubtedly formed after hours of profound reflection and deep study of operational efficiency, are of course invaluable. I mean, who doesn't love a good critique devoid of any actionable solutions? Your ability to find fault without proposing alternatives is a truly rare and underappreciated skill, Greg.
Did you get this? I think this was a review that somebody left on the Camp Strategy website, actually, I think.
Maybe. So, Greg, I'd love to extend you the opportunity of a lifetime, rewriting the entire SOP yourself. Congratulations. I'll even provide you a gold-plated pen and a stack of premium paper so that your masterpiece can be preserved for future generations. If that's too much, I completely understand. You're likely busy engaging in high-level strategic thinking, such as ensuring the coffee pot never gets refilled or debating the best way to lean on a shovel. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and continue using the SOP as is because, shocking as this may be, it actually works. But hey, if you'd like to type up a 50-page thesis on why it doesn't, I'll be sure to frame it and hang it in the department of complaints that no one asked for. Looking forward to your next round of incredibly helpful input, management. P.S. If you'd like to set up a meeting to discuss this further, I'll be available never.
That's Snark Factor 1000.
And now a song. The Ballad of Greg's Feedback. I'm not singing this. Do you want to sing this, Scott? You look just be quiet for a minute.
My singing voice is.
I just want to make sure we involve everybody here equally, okay? Like normally we'll be talking more to Scott and Greg, but read the SOP and it ruined your day. With a mighty sigh and a rolling of eyes, you're declared to the world this thing's a disguise. I like that. I always read songs in ChatGPT more like poetry, probably because I can't sing. But so you can have fun with this, right? Generate an image. Greg. Could you describe what Greg looks like? How do you look like? How do you look, Greg?
Easy here. Let's just be careful.
No, you decide. You describe yourself. You describe yourself.
I'm not
Scott,
going to do
describe Greg.
No.
Well, you can say he's in whatever. Okay, Lisa's going to describe it. Lisa,
He's wearing a sweet Red Wings jersey right now, so that is the most important thing about Greg.
Oh, a Calgary Flames jersey.
Oh, come on.
I might get a rash. Am I gonna...
Lisa,
You're outnumbered here.
sweet smile, Greg. Look at that.
Oh, well, that's very sweet.
Dark hair, slightly receding. With
Thank you for being generous with the slightly thing.
Pepper beard. Clean cut.
Heavy on the salt.
Caucasian male.
All of a sudden, it sounds like I'm being put out on an APB.
5 feet. What?
Caucasian male, approximately 5'8". Yeah.
she says you're 165 pounds. Is that accurate?
If she's being generous, sure. Yeah, that's pretty damn close.
With a pirate parrot on his shoulder, a cigar, and a whiskey on a boat.
I like the way we ended it.
Oh, we gotta have fun, right? And it will generate you an image of Greg. What do you think you're gonna look like? This is such anticipation. Hey, look at that.
It was very, very generous with the hairline there. Yeah, that would
That is
be great if I
actually
could
the
get that.
best image I've seen come out of ChatGPT. I wonder if they upgraded this.
It's
That's
not
not the
bad.
cartoony dolly thing, is it really?
No, it's not. It's pretty good.
That's nice. Yeah. It's a shame you have watered down your whiskey with ice.
With ice, yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's just
Yeah,
that's against the rules.
but that's not bad. So the point being here, right? Like as we come to a close on the show, is that this is going, for all the tough talk that I had specifically, I guess. All that stands true. You need to pay attention to all this stuff. You need to be aware of it, but also you can have fun with it too. Like it's there to be a resource to you, but it's there. One of the first. I'll say it, like Mike Harrison. I remember Mike Harrison from CRR Hospitality asked me, probably over a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, right? I just don't know where to start using this. And my answer to him was the same as my answer to many other people. Go home when you're done with work. You're sitting there on the couch watching a movie in front of the TV with your kids, and just open it up and say, like, what other movies did Tom Cruise or whoever the star is, right, star in, and what were their names? Cool. Like, what about his co-star, this person? Is there anything that they starred in together? Okay, could you write like a bedtime story that continues this movie for my kids? That's funny. Like, and it's just, if you just start doing that little by little, then you'll start to realize the things that it can answer, the conversations you can have, how to get better or worse results out of it, and you will very quickly learn, just like Mike did. And that's the easiest way to do it, is practice. And it doesn't require forced, I have to use it for business. It doesn't require you to, like, you should make time for it. But the more that you play around with it, the more that you see how it can impact your life, the more you will want to use it naturally. And the quicker you'll get better at it. And man, that's a good future. Like for you, for your campground, for the questions you're going to ask. Like, let's say you come to Greg or Scott and want a feasibility study or a report done in your campground or any kind of consulting work, or you come to me and you want marketing, and you know how to use ChatGPT. So you can go in and say, how do I know if Brian's full of shit when he's talking to me on the phone about what I should do for my campground? What 5 questions should I ask him to make him really prove that the money I'm going to give him is worthwhile? And then interview me and find out if I'm full of shit. Anybody you talk to, anybody you ask, right? And then put my answers in and say, Brian said this. Is he full of shit? And it will tell you. And all of a sudden you become not just an expert in your RV park or your campground, but you become somebody who is an expert in making sure that you're making the best business decisions possible in every facet and every area of your campground. Because without learning, you know the correct questions to ask. That has no price on it, does it, gentlemen?
No, that's priceless. Yep.
So final thoughts, guys.
Yep. From my perspective, it's just to reiterate, Brian's laid out a lot of information here. Just start using it. I think we said that last week too, but it's like, start using it, start having conversations. It's a tool. It's the best tool out there right now. And just start using it. Don't be intimidated, or call Brian, call Greg. They'll tell you, don't call me because I'm not an expert at it, but
but really, I will talk to you. You don't have to buy anything from me. I'll help you. Book an appointment with me.
Right, exactly. That's one of the things. By the way, this is more of a global statement, is that and anyone listening, there's so many resources in this industry to tap into that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg.
Yep.
Just ask questions, call and ask. The answers are out there for you.
I don't know if you know this, Scott, but Greg is really expensive. We're kind of cheap, but Greg is really, really, really expensive.
I rarely start the meter. That's it. And because I'm the same way. I believe just like you do, Scott. And I'm sure you feel this way too. And Brian, probably you do too. I've gotten so much goodwill and knowledge and from the people in the industry, because I don't know if it's because it's a hospitality industry and people just treat each other that way. But the outdoor hospitality industry, the people in it are so generous and giving of their time and their knowledge. And so I do the same thing. People book calls with me all the time, and I'll jump on 30 minutes with them, an hour. And if I've got the time, it's not like I turn the meter on and at the end send them an invoice or something. I'm happy to share what I know. There's certainly things that cross over into, okay, now I'm charging you for this, right? We've got a contract. It's different. But you want to talk about this, you want to talk about something you saw on the podcast, but just book some time. That's fine. I am an open book. I have received way too much knowledge and goodwill for free to not hand it back out. That karma would come after me really fast if I did that. And my last thought, this is my favorite thing to do with GPT since I started doing it. I now have a recipe chat that must be a mile long, because I love to cook, and I got a lot of things I can do just from, bless you, Scott. I have just from memory, right? But open the refrigerator. I don't know what to make tonight, but I've got this and this and this and this and this and this and that and this much time, and bam, here's 10 different ideas for dinner.
Do you have the app on your phone? Do you have the app on your phone?
Yes.
Have you used the video? Have you used the video, like to look at it?
Just the other night, I took a picture of the refrigerator.
But have you hit the video icon to like say like in real time?
No, I have not, but I'll use the voice to text, right? And so it captures it, and then I just upload it that way. But I tried a picture of the refrigerator.
Can I show you something? Can I show you something? And our audience will learn at the same time?
Yeah.
You have your phone?
I do.
Pull out your phone, open that. You have the app, the ChatGPT app?
Yeah.
And I know you're paying the $200 a month like I am.
I am.
So open up the advanced voice mode, the little white black thing in the corner, the white, yeah. And then there's a video camera there you can hit.
Yep.
And it will turn on your video, and then you just talk to it.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty well. It's talking to me. Okay.
Just say, what am I looking at?
If you need any help with the call or anything else, just let me know.
Okay, so what am I looking at here?
It looks like you're in a virtual meeting with a few participants. Is there anything specific you need help with?
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, what is their names?
Yeah, what are their names?
Based on what I'm seeing, their names appear to be Scott Barr and Brian Searle. Does that help?
It does. We're doing a podcast right now. We're live, and this is all about AI and how it applies to the outdoor hospitality industry, and further, just how to get people to start using it. Basically, do you have any advice for things for us to talk about? We're really boring, and it's been a really boring, long slog of a show. We really could use you to introduce some fun and insight into it.
Sure. To spice things up, you could discuss real-life examples of how AI is transforming campgrounds, like using AI for personalized guest experiences or automating operational tasks. You could also explore future trends in AI for outdoor hospitality. Interactive Q&A with the audience might also add some excitement and engagement.
We need an audience first. Nobody's watching.
And so look at that. We are now... Outwired's been fun. It's been 3 episodes. It is now over. AI owns it and is going to be running it from here on out. Thanks everybody for watching.
But you can put that on your fridge, right? Like put that. Yeah. So instead of taking the picture, just put the video and say, Absolutely. What do I make with what's in here?
Right on. I tried it and it didn't, because I have things in like, Tupperware containers and stuff, right? It didn't recognize everything. Okay. But if I tell it what's in the fridge, tell it what's in the pantry, tell it what spirits I have, what cocktails can I make?
Maybe you should ask AI how the dangers of plastic leaching into your food are bad for you, and you should use glass containers instead of Tupperware.
Hey guys, I gotta.
We're leaving. Any final thoughts, Scott?
No, that was it. No. Good conversation, lots of good detail. I hope people, like I said, ask questions. Lots there, lots to digest. So
awesome, guys. Well, thanks for a good show, and we'll see you next week. We'll talk about some data stuff instead of me talking all the time.
See ya.
Talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.